Oh, hey buddy, it's your old pal Scott. This is Let's Talk Tabletop. This week I want to discuss a trend that is a little worrisome. Is Age of Sigmar dead? Did 4th edition kill it? Why are all the tournaments drying up? Why are all the gaming clubs drying up? That is what I found on my deep dive. So, let's dive into it. Before the video begins, I would like to mention a non-sponsored plug for my friend Alex's Kickstarter RPG of demigods. You essentially pick whatever type of demigod you want to be, and you go out and save the world. It's really awesome, and it's on Kickstarter right now, so go check it out. So we've all heard of Age of Sigmar, right? You've heard of it? I think I have. I noticed for my convention this year that the numbers for Age of Sigmar players were lower than normal. And I was like, that's interesting. Maybe even half as many Age of Sigmar players as in the past. Now, of course, my convention Shorehammer is 2 months out. It's the first weekend in December, so we usually have a pretty big uptick towards the end. So maybe those people are coming. But that was kind of like alarm bells, and I'm thinking, that's interesting. And I said, well, now that I think about it, my local group's Age of Sigmar scene has completely dried up. We have a club of roughly 20 people, and we will have anywhere from like 7 to 15 on a week. And we used to have a very vibrant Age of Sigmar community. Now we're down to one regular Age of Sigmar player. Now I still play Age of Sigmar. I like it. My friend James still plays Age of Sigmar, but that's not our main games. Both of us have kind of just moved on to Mass Brutality as our main game because of the flexibility and use any models you want. And we have one holdout person, and our friend TJ is still really liking Age of Sigmar. He doesn't really care for 4th edition that much, but he is still holding out for Age of Sigmar. But everyone else has either moved on to a Brutality type of game. Our other friend David has just moved over to Brutality. And then the other ones just went over to 40K. And I was thinking, that's interesting. The numbers at my convention show this trend. And then the club numbers are also showing this trend. I wonder if this is elsewhere. So I went to Facebook and contacted some of the people I know through the convention. And I said, hey, you and your club, are you coming this year? And some of them said, yeah, we're coming. Some of them said they weren't. But all of them said that some of their players have lost interest in Age of Sigmar. One guy actually said that they have not been able to have an Age of Sigmar tournament in 2025 for like 6 months. And they used to have one tournament a month at their store. He said that they will announce it and people say they're going, etc., but then nobody shows up. He said they'll get like 2 people or 3 people, and you really can't have a tournament worth anything for that. And he said, so they haven't been able to have a tournament like 6 months because nobody shows up for Age of Sigmar. He said, meanwhile, 40K is still doing gangbusters and it's still very popular. So I'm like, oh, this is kind of scary. Okay. And now I consulted another gaming group through the convention, and I said, hey, what's your Age of Sigmar community looking like? And they said, oh, a lot of them went over to Horus Heresy. And a couple went to 40K, but many of them just stopped playing Age of Sigmar altogether. They don't like 4th edition, and they moved to Horus Heresy. So I'm like, I have my detective hat on, and I'm thinking this, 1 is a fluke, 2 is a coincidence, 3 is a pattern, and now we're up to like 5 at this point. So then I went to the place where all of you would go. I went to Reddit, and I was like, hey, I wonder if other people are having this problem. And long story short, they were. And the complaints they had were the same exact types of complaints that the people I spoke to had about 4th edition Age of Sigmar. They came out with indexes, and the indexes are 99% the same as when they come out with a codex. Now, in the past, like 8th edition 40K and other times where they came out with an index, the index was the bare bones thing, right? And then when they came out with a codex, it would have more flavor, it would have more options, it would have more customization, things like that. And 4th edition Age of Sigmar codexes are almost identical to their free version. And then you're thinking, why am I buying this book? So one thing that people are complaining about is the blandness of 4th edition Age of Sigmar. And I am not a super Age of Sigmar fan or anything like that. I play it maybe once a month, maybe once every 2 months. But I also have noticed in my rules that things are very samey across the armies. Very, very samey. So a lot of things just deal D3 mortal wounds or whatever. And someone on the Reddit thing actually brought up a really good point about how his Nurgle army in 3rd edition used to have those contagion points or whatever they were called, and then they would do different things, and you'd pile them up, and it was very interesting and flavorful. And then in this edition, it's like, oh, every other turn I do D3 mortals to you. It's not that fun, right? People also mention the Slaanesh army where they just deal mortals now instead of doing fun mechanics, and it just seems like they have really streamlined the armies in a bad way so that you don't have nearly as much customization. Another thing on the customization front is that they used to give you 6 spell lores? I think it was 6. And then you had 6 artifacts, and then you had 6 warlord traits. I can't even remember what they're called, like the enhancements. And they gave you all these different versions. Heck, Cities of Sigmar had, 6? 6 cities and 6 of everything else, or 3 of everything else. But the point is that you had so much customization that, you could make your army your own. That doesn't seem to be the case now. Is that you just, it's kind of like, here, you get what you get and don't cry about it. Now you have 3 artifacts, and you have 3 warlord traits, and you have 3 whatever, and it's just not as flavorful. Not to mention, the list building restrictions, a lot of people I'm hearing are not liking, where only certain units can be taken with certain people unless you want to give your opponent a benefit of some sort, or you have to take a negative because you're not following the very rigid guidelines the Games Workshop put forth on 4th edition. And that's also completely antithetical to Age of Sigmar. Age of Sigmar was always take whatever you want, and it was very freeform. And now they're trying to shoehorn it into this very, very more than 40k restrictive system, and it just doesn't work for the clientele, I don't think. Another issue is that the list building on the app, it's basically all been shoved onto the app, because the last time I recall, there was no points in the book at all. And the list building has all been moved onto the app. So you have to, I know you can use the app for free, technically. You can make, 1 list or something like that. But then you don't have access to your army rules. So essentially they want you to buy a $60 book for the rules. But then you can't build an army. So then you have to go to the app, and you have to put the code in that prove that you bought the book in the app, and then pay for the app so that you can have any amount of freedom and customization in making more than 1 army, or seeing your army rules on the app, or whatever, not having to flip between the app and the book. And again, just like with the new army restrictions, I think that is way too confining and constricting. So, have you seen this? Is your gaming club growing in Age of Sigmar or shrinking in Age of Sigmar? And have you attended any tournaments or anything like that? One thing on Reddit is that one guy used to say that he used to go to tournaments multiple times a year, and he's yet to go to a 4th edition tournament after his first. So that's also a big red flag. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next week. And this is all my beautiful, sexy, good-smelling Patreon patrons that I am so appreciative of. Thank you for supporting the show. At this point in the show, I like to say a little silly thing that I know about each and every one of these people, because I know them very intimately. We're a community on Patreon. So, Mike likes to collect Roman coins, authentic Roman coins, but he refuses to buy them. He only does tomb raiding. It's a hobby, I guess. Did you know that Grendel has never drank a soda? I said, hey, Grendel, have you drank a soda? And he said, no, I've never had a soda. What is that? Come to find out, he does drink pop. Lots of it. But I don't know what that is. Hero said that he can actually be a villain sometimes, which is a little scary. Beef Supreme always wears a life vest. Always. Every day, even if he's in the middle of the continent. Kevin said he was actually named after Kevin Malone on The Office. That's neat, I guess. Jordan Johnson told me he is the Silver Surfer, but looking at him, he's not silver. Paint and Suffering is really big into the future historical scene. You know, where they reenact battles and things like that. He's going to be reenacting the Battle of Clendathu this weekend if you want to go see him. It's going to be pretty neat. Fraud Fishy is starting his own fast food restaurant called McBurger Queen. Good luck, Fraud Fishy. We're rooting for you. Saul was convinced he was in an online relationship with Laura Croft for 3 years, until she broke up with him. If you ever run into Nate on the street, ask him for an M&M. I know a little secret about Nate. He always keeps a single M&M in his pocket. He'll give it to you. And the Peppers are in trouble with their bank right now. They refuse to not sign their paychecks in crayon. And they say, I thought this was America. I had a typo in my last video. Kenneth's name actually has 5 N's, not 4. I'm sorry, Kenneth. He was very irate. Davich has a massive collection of Chimpokomon cards. I don't know what that is. I email Brendan, but Brendan only sends me snail mail letters on paper written in some sort of unidentifiable liquid. Never game with Mitch with a gaming mat. He will eat it. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next week.